If you have ever seen the Tron movies or played the games, you might have thought that it was the users, the humans who create the programs living in the grid, that support the grid and keep it moving. If you have not seen the movies or played the games, just think about a computer and each of the programs you have downloaded or installed on it to perform various functions for you. Keeping the programs in working order would be the users, which most people would think supported the computer, known as the grid in Tron. I, however, believe that the support comes from the programs. Each was made by a user and has a specific function in the grid, whether it is to protect the leader of the grid, make sure all the programs do what they are supposed to do, or protect the grid from viruses. One such program is a security program named Tron, although in the second movie he is known as Rinsler. He is the greatest fighter in the grid, and anyone or anything who endangered the grid was derezzed, which is basically dying in the grid. And as a security program, he defended the grid from harm, helping to keep it safe, and like every other program, supported it. But even after he was corrupted, he still defended the grid. Each person, whether they are a program or a user, or if they exist in the grid or the real world, have their own Trons and their own grids. Those Trons are their friends. Constantly supporting each other and keeping us safe from harm, I believe that each person has his or her own security program in their life. There have been several times in my life where I have wanted to give up on something, whether it was a story, a piece of art, or something from school. And every time I wanted to do so, one of my friends, if not all of them, would tell me to never give up, and that if I thought I couldn't do it, well then thanks for letting them down and not filling the world with more of my awesomeness. And the one to say this the most, and the loudest, is Xana, the friend I met over Neopets.com. The greatest amount of support I have ever received from a friend came from Xana, and it was recent, only a few weeks ago. I was getting a 74% in math class. Before that, I had told Xana I was only allowed online to chat with her, if I had at least an 80% in the class. I rarely did that good, even in the first few weeks of school, and I never thought I could. My lack of confidence in my ability to pass the class was great, and Xana was the only one I ever told about how much I thought I would fail. But she told me one day that, even though I may never graduate school, Liz, I know that you'll be the girl dancing across the stage on graduation day and receive an award for graduating at the top of your class. She was the first friend of mine who ever told me that, the first one to ever think so highly of whatever intelligence I had and actually mean it. I went in to retake a math test. It was the hardest test I had ever taken, and it took me so long to get ready for it. For about 2 weeks, I went into class every day I could, and spent hours there. I went over work, I got help, and I wrote down so much notes that some of my work pages were covered in orange ink. When the time came for me to take my math test, I went into the classroom shaking, fear shooting through my whole body and making me feel slightly sick. I had never been that scared about a test before. Would I be able to pass? Would I ever get out of the 70% range? And through Xana's support, I knew that the answer was yes. I thought of her words coming to me over MSN Instant Messenger, telling me how she will one day see me graduating from high school with the best grades I could imagine, and I knew that I would do it. I sat down, my pencil in my hand, eraser, pencil sharpener, calculator, and scratch paper for my work arranged carefully on my desk. I took in a deep, shuddering breath and took out my iPod blasting my favorite song, Pretty Rave Girl by I Am X-Ray. It made me think of Xana, and I began my test. I spent more time on that test than any I had ever taken. I did every problem as carefully as I possibly could, trying to remember every single word I had written in my notes, trying to recreate the examples on the board in my mind's eye so I'd get everything right. Just perfect, like Xana. After I finished it, I considered calling my mom and going home, but didn't. Still scared, I went back to the first problem and looked back at my work. I made sure I had copied the problem exactly the way it was on the test, making sure that it was right. As I moved down, step by step, I prayed that I did good, that all my answers were indeed correct. Every time I reached an answer, I made sure both answers were the same. And for the ones I got different answers on, I went back and redid it until I felt certain the answer was right. As I turned in my test, I was still nervous. I shook, but not as much, and I didn't feel sick either. The techno music of my iPod and the words of my Xana had soothed my frayed nerves, and for the first time that year, I felt confident. Not just a little confident, but really confident. The next day I found out what my score was. I was staring at my teacher in shock. I wasn't really sure what I had heard, but I had heard her say 79.6. That puts you in a B range. It wasn't the 100 I was shooting for in any way, but it was okay. It must have raised my overall grade too, but I was still incredibly disappointed, and I felt like I had let myself down. The moment I got home, I begged my mom to let me go online and check my grades. I had misheard my teacher. I did not get a 70 anything on the test. I got a 95%. I'm sure my neighbors heard my shrieks of joy. I got a 95. That's an A. I checked my calculator. I only missed one problem. I felt like I had traveled the length of the universe, stopped an intergalactic war, and made the humans 1,000 times more advanced than they had ever been in less than a week. I had never done this good in an actual test for math in my life. Maybe those silly 1 + 1 = 2 problems of kindergarten, but I didn't count that. I got an A. I felt like dancing, and dance I did. The moment my dad got home, I asked if I could go online again, this time for fun after telling him the amazing news. He told me yes after congratulating me, so I logged on. I could practically see Xana smiling in front of her monitor all the way out in Louisville, Kentucky as I told her the great news. I told her thank you, and that I never could have done it without her help. And it was true. Without her support, I never would have done it, and so many things, no matter how hard I tried. Xana has always been here for me, and I know she always will be. She may be just another friend I met online in the minds of others, but to me she is a million times more than that. She's my first real friend, my defender, my supporter, my security program. I know that as long as I have goals and dreams, she will always be the one cheering me on the loudest. The one saying not, you can do it, but the one saying you will do this and be awesome at it. She is the one in the audience of my personal games, screaming her impossibly loud support while everyone cheers on my opponent. She's the one standing behind me and shoving me forward past all my fears that I may be who I want. The one holding my hand, saying that no matter what anyone ever says, whether they're an adult, a student, or a complete stranger, that unless they are saying I can do anything I set my mind to, they're wrong. Every person is his or her own grid, and each grid has his or her own Tron. My Tron is Xana, the musical, artistic security program of Louisville, Kentucky. She's always fighting by my side the way I fight beside hers, and we will always support each other. I believe in hope. I believe in reaching my dreams. But even more than that, I believe in my love for my amazingly wonderful security program named Xana.